Hello, and welcome to the Memory Box Project, another chance to take a walk down memory lane. Don't forget you can pause this recording at any time so that you can stop and have a chat to the people sitting with you. This week we're talking about gardening, so we thought we'd take you outside, and I'm going to be helped in this programme by my colleagues Heather, Cody and Erin, who you'll meet later on.
My granddad was a prolific gardener, and he would spend hours poring over seed catalogues up in his greenhouse away from my granny, and he would know exactly what he wanted. He'd plan out what the beds were going to be, and then he'd sit down and write his order, and he'd order seeds like these from these. Oh, this one is some lettuce, and this one we've got some Sweet Williams. Sweet Williams are beautiful, lovely colours, and a really nice fragrance too. He'd also make sure that he got everything else that he needed. So if he was growing tomatoes or other vegetables, he'd make sure that he'd got all his insecticides. So do you remember Kilzel? It's not a name that I'm familiar with, but this one is. This one's Fison's fertilizers, and it says take a leaf out of the professionals book. Let's unfold the leaflet for you, and inside it was a very informative leaflet. It told you exactly what you needed for your garden. And did you ever read any magazines or booklets? You might have had something like this. This came from Woolworths, and it was promoted by Fred Streeter, the BBC gardener. Now, Fred Streeter's not a name I recognise. Do you recognise it? What other gardeners do you know from the TV? You know, Gardener's World first came on television in the 1960s, and prior to that, the radio started broadcasting programmes about gardening in the early 1930s. This little catalogue came from Woolies. It's got lots of adverts. So we've got Fostrogen. They sold tools, because of course Woolworths sold a little bit of everything, didn't they? Cuthbert seeds. Flit the garden insect killer. Did you ever use that? And of course, to keep your lawn nice and fresh, you might need some evergreen seeds. This little booklet's got lots of different little articles in it that tells you about planting seeds from scratch, from what to do when they're in the greenhouse and growing. There's a section about growing fruit, soft fruits. You could probably pick up lots of different tips from these types of booklets. And maybe you had a book like this, Garden Work for Amateurs. Again, filled with lots of adverts. On the front here, it tells us all about planting for early spring. Inside, lots of adverts. Maybe you had a shed in your garden. It would have been wooden. My shed today, it's green and it's metal. And every time it rains, you can hear it thundering down on the roof. Heather started the season by sowing seeds in compostable pots, plastic pots, and homemade toilet roll paper pots. And now's time for the plants to grow.
So hello everyone on this lovely sunny day. I'm going to give you all a little update on my fruits and vegetables that we've got growing. Now, I did cheat slightly because I was panicking that the tomatoes weren't coming through. So I brought some tomato plants, but these have grown quite a lot. And we have some lovely little yellow flowers starting on them, so we'll get the fruit out of them soon. And these have been kept in the greenhouse, which I've put twine around so they can climb up them. How would you grow your tomatoes? Were they in the greenhouse, or did you have them out. So over here on the potting bench we have some vegetables that have been growing in the greenhouse. So here we have some courgettes and cucumbers. So now these are going to grow very large. They're kind of got a velcro-y sort of texture to them. And as you can see on the stalks, they've got some tiny little spikes, obviously to keep bugs off of them. And I'm going to be using some wire mesh for these to grow up when they're eventually planted out. Here we have some broccolis. These are going to be purple sprouting broccoli. They're growing really well. In the cold frame, we have some runner beans in here, which have come from the greenhouse into the cold frame to start hardening off, and they'll be ready to go out soon, hopefully by this weekend I think, because they're quite large. They're growing really well. We have some peas, which I'll show you in a minute. One lot are already out. We also have pak choy over in the corner there, which is doing very well, and rocket. So over here we have carrots growing, and they've had a mesh over the top to stop the snails getting to them. What sort of things did you ever use to stop the bugs, the snails and the slugs coming for your veggies? We've also got some little markers that I made. These are just stones that I painted up with different fruits and veggies on them. So these are some of the peas. They went out this weekend and I've created the frame for them. So how did you make your frames for your climbing vegetables and fruits? This one is made from bamboo, sort of like a teepee shape, with twine that I've done spacing in between so they can grasp onto them. So in our bath we have some potatoes, and this is their first showing of their leaves. So what do you do with potatoes when the leaves get to a certain point? Did any of you grow potatoes? What sort of types did you grow? Did you get a good crop? Because I'm hoping for a good crop. So hanging from the fence here we have a green felt wall hanger, which in each of the pockets we have some different salad leaves. So there are lots of different salad plants there. They're coming along very nicely. And in here we're growing from scratch. So did you ever grow any vegetables from scraps in the kitchen? We've got some radish here and another lettuce. Last year I only had about 2 strawberry plants. This year they've multiplied to be about 6. So in here I've popped some hay and straw around the bottom of them to protect the fruits when they start coming through. But I didn't buy this colour last year, so we've got some lovely little pink flowers, which obviously the strawberry will come in the middle. So in this pot we have some rhubarb, which I got rid of all the old stems and all the new ones, and the lovely leaves have started coming through. You can see here they're coming through very strong. I think lovely fresh rhubarb, nice rhubarb puddings. What sort of things would you make? So rhubarb crumbles maybe, or apple and rhubarb pie. Or you use your rhubarb in different ways. Did you make jams, different preserves?
Thanks for showing us your garden, Heather, and how all your vegetables are growing. Maybe you've kept an allotment, like one of these. I'd like to introduce you to Ken. He kept an allotment for over 50 years and was really successful. He earned lots of certificates from different competitions. He even won these 2 medals from the Royal Horticultural Society. They're about the size of an old-fashioned crown coin. Ken loved to grow giant vegetables. Here he is, weighing in some of his giant pumpkins, and now with a variety of other veg that he grew. Ken was also an award-winning chrysanthemum grower, and he won several competitions, even from the National Chrysanthemum Society. Have you ever entered any competitions? Here's one from the Garden News. It's a scroll of honour awarded for his front garden. My mum and dad used to take part in the Rushmore in Bloom competition. Have you ever done anything like that?
Hi, it's Erin here. Let's have a look at some of the things in my garden. These are some Asiatic lilies which I grew from bulbs. They've got lots of buds forming and I'm really excited to see these flower because it feels like I've been waiting forever. These are some petunias and lobelias waiting, and a hydrangea. So there's a climbing hydrangea which is in bud, and there's a bush hydrangea. I think this one's going to be dark pink. Lavender smells wonderful. More petunias. This is a lemon balm, so it really smells really lovely and citrusy. This is a beautiful yellow rose that's growing over the arch. I wasn't sure what colour the roses were going to be because I haven't lived here very long. This is a marigold called Naughty Marietta, which I've grown from seed. A lot of these got attacked by slugs, so I finally got some flowers. This one is a rhododendron. It's very small, but it's got some beautiful flowers on it already. It's got quite dry but waxy leaves. These are African daisies, so I've gone for some purple ones, and I've also gone for some orange ones as well. So these are all over the garden. I think they're absolutely beautiful, and I'm hoping they're going to really fill out and cover the ground. A lot of bare ground at the moment.
How many of you have grown anything like Erin has done this year?
I think we all enjoy the fruits of somebody else's hard work. Have you ever visited a garden that's open to the public? Where did you go? Were the gardens formally laid out? Did they have formal planting? Or were there walkways from which fruits were hung? And what about the flowers? Did you grow any like these? Aren't the colours wonderful? And the lavender is probably my favourite fragrance in the garden. Maybe it had a pond. Take a moment to talk about your own memories of visiting gardens.
We're now going to take a quick trip to Cody's garden. It's full of mod cons, designed for a leisurely afternoon.
This is my garden. It's a work in progress at the moment. This is a hibiscus tree. This is my little cherry tree. Some fuchsias. This is the little sunbathing area. We've got lots of different bits and bobs hanging from the tree. So this is the start of the pallet sofa. Still got some work to be done. Barbecue and the dog. The exciting part. The spa.
Cody, thanks very much for sharing your garden with us today. In Cody's garden there were two seating areas. One that's still a work in progress, as he said, his pallet bench, and he's got some other seats as well. And here we've got a leaflet showing us some early garden furniture, artistic garden furniture. Let's have a look at it. Some of it is labelled as rustic, which is still quite common and popular today. There were different types of shelters. And I love the swing seat on this one.
Welcome to my garden. Let's take a closer look. Here in the fish pond, we've got goldfish, gold north, ghost carp. They're beautiful and colourful, and I love watching them. It's so calming. Have you ever had a fish pond in your garden? What sort of fish did you keep? I wonder whether you spotted this little chap. He's been sat by my pond for nearly 25 years. Did you ever have any garden gnomes? And here's our water feature. Just listen to the tinkling sound of the water as it flows. Isn't it musical? We have a stone bird bath, a bird feeding station, and behind this, a raised bed of rather mature shrubs. And this is where Leo likes to hide.
There's nothing better than a nicely cut lawn, and my husband is quite a stickler for that. Before he cuts the lawn, he always takes out the dandelions. There's nothing more satisfying than that crunch as they come out of the ground, he tells me. Taking me back to when I was a child, I can remember the lawnmower that we used to have. I've got a leaflet of lawnmowers here. They're made by Ransom's, all different sorts. And the mower that I remember was this one here. It's called a Ripper, the Ransom's Ripper. Now that's a name and a half, isn't it? I wonder whether it actually rips the grass from its roots. But we used to have a lawnmower like this when I was a little girl, and I used to get pocket money for mowing the lawn with it. And it says that it costs £16 and 1 penny. Cody mentioned that his garden was a work in progress, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know a garden that isn't a work in progress. I don't know a gardener who will quite happily say, I'm done, and sit down and enjoy. The work's never ending. You don't need a big space to have a garden. If you don't have an outside space, you can still be a gardener. You can be an indoor gardener. How about growing some herbs on your windowsills? Thank you for joining my colleagues and I today. We really hope you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane and thinking about your own garden and your experiences visiting other people's gardens. Until next time. Bye.
Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this week's gardening session.
Goodbye from my garden.
Thanks for watching. Goodbye for me and my head gardener.